Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Humanities Team. This is our Tuesday morning show, Mindset, Heartset, Reset. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the show today. I know those of you that are coming into the show, you're coming in from YouTube, you're coming in from Facebook, and you're coming in right from Humanities Team Live. So welcome everybody to the show. We're so excited to have the show with you today. We have quite a production for you this morning, and we have a very special guest we're really excited to meet or introduce you all to today. We're going a little different direction today, and actually for our next few series for this show. And we're going to be touching on, for the next 3 shows, some social justice themes and how that really ties in to where our world's at today. Dr. Roshanak in just a minute is going to introduce the show to you, but how this is going to tie into our show specifically, how it ties into where the world is at today, and how we can each contribute to giving people the voices in the world and giving them a place where they can be seen and heard in different ways. And our guest today is going to really help us share the story and lens in which he sees and views the world as well. So welcome everybody to the show. Mindset, Heartset, Reset. We're this dynamic live weekly show. We really want to provoke introspection for everyone, cultivate compassion, and spark positive change in the world. It's part of who we are and what we want to do and the impact that we want to create with Humanities Team and their mission and vision for our world. And that's really to create awareness and consciousness and make it pervasive across our planet. So through our insightful discussions, we're going to provide practical tools, and you're going to hear authentic stories, especially today. That's going to empower your mindset. It's going to open your heart, and you're going to find new connections, both in your own world and with Humanities Team as well. We're going to give you the courage to hit that reset button in your own life. Our simple mission is to expand love at a global scale, and with a vision to shift humanity's future to one that we can all thrive. So thank you for coming. Again, I'm going to welcome everybody from Facebook and also from YouTube and right here from Humanities Team live stream. So I'm going to do a quick introduction of my co-host. My name is Jacqueline Way. I am the founder of 365 Give. I sit on the advisory board for Humanities Team and obviously a host for the show. I have a charitable organization called 365 Give, and it was based on a simple premise that I believe we can put love into our world every day. We help people cultivate, we inspire, and we teach how you can give every day. And we really think that giving is love in action. And it was a simple project that started with my son, and today it's a global giving movement. And I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Dr. Roshanak Hashimun. And Dr. Roshanak is having a few technical difficulties today with her video, but you are going to hear her in just one moment. She's just in a place where her clarity isn't quite as good as normal in regards to her video, but we're happy to have you with us, Dr. Roshanak. Dr. Roshanak is a computational, clinical, and behavioral neuroscientist whose work supports and changes countless lives all over the world. She's the founder of Access to the Path, and she combines the power and process of science with the emotional and spiritual intelligence that help people and businesses become more purposeful, effective, and prosperous. Dr. Roshanak, welcome to the show today, and thank you for hosting with us.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I am so excited for this show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mindset, Heartset, Reset. We are starting off our social justice series, and I'm super excited to start this series off with our amazing guest today, Sean Claffey. He is a extremely interesting, intelligent, heart-centered person, exactly the kind of person that we love to have on the show. He's a director, he's a producer, he's a writer. He's had over 25 years in the film industry. He's done feature films, TV pilots, industry documentaries and commercials. And his most recent documentary film, Americaned, is a multi-award winning film that was released just a few months ago, earlier this year. He's won awards, including the Cannes World Film Festival for Best Cause-Driven Film, the Boston Independent Film Awards, the Workers Unite Film Festival, the Paris Film Awards, the New York International Film Awards. Absolutely, I've seen this movie. It is stunning. It is It's a punch in the gut, but the one that you really needed, and then a way out. And I absolutely love that. Sean has been training and working in his field since he was 14, doing technical theater in high school. He's worked with some of the best people in the world, including directors and director of photography like Joel and Ethan Coen, Spike Lee, Vilma Sigmund, and Russell Carpenter. He's directed many TV pilots and produced many of them also over the last few years. I really want to just jump right in and talk to you a little about Sean the man, because he is so committed to what he does. And there are two things that really shine from my perspective about Sean. And one is that he is the light in the darkness. He goes around shining that light on injustices around the globe. And if we want to build a world in which all can thrive, then we must have fairness, justice, equity, and of course, be in the light rather than the dark. So for me, this is where Sean's heart is the sort of true north that guides us back to what we need to address, and gives us the hope and the way of addressing it so that we can improve the human condition and come into community and come into unity and be the best version of ourselves, individually and collectively. The other thing that I really love about Sean is that he's really great at presenting emotionally compelling stories. And I love storytelling. And I know that we as humans work best when we connect through story. It's the most human part of us, where we see the truth of our being in ways that words alone, nor body language, nor intonation of voice can convey. So I'm super excited to welcome you, Sean, to our show, Mindset, Heartset, Reset. And I'll tell you a little bit, everybody in the audience, about what we're doing today. So today, our episode title is called Silenced Suffering, Giving Voice to the Voiceless, and that's Sean's forte. There are so many people who are suffering in silence, and many of us already have. There's this famous quote that says, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. The masses lead lives of quiet desperation. It's true. And we've all been there. And feeling that you are disempowered has got to be one of the worst feelings in the world. And it is absolutely untrue to our nature. So today we are highlighting the importance of our being, the value each human being has, and giving that voice to those who have not been heard, who are, shouting in the wind into that darkness. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is how systemic manipulation drives separation. Because as people become, more and more disempowered, more and more hopeless, etc., then they also can start to turn on themselves and on each other. They can other others. There's that othering that comes up. There is this false and unnecessary and unnatural separation that occurs. So we're going to discuss that today. We're going to talk about our shared humanity amongst all of us people worldwide. And we're going to do that through illuminating injustice with an eye to where we can become vulnerable and susceptible to propaganda, and how we can find our way back, what we need to do so that we are less susceptible, so that we come into greater unity and oneness, so that we are consciously present to our own lives and to our systems, because those systems only exist with humans behind them. So all of that, and what I love most of all, is bringing us into that place of full engagement with life. This is the sort of grand overview of what we're doing today. And we're going to try to do that in about an hour.
I was going to say, yeah, we're down to 50 minutes.
Yeah,
there you go.
Further ado, let me allow Sean to say hello to everybody. And Jacqueline, I see you want to start, so we'll come right over to you.
Yeah,
So hi, Sean,
I'm
welcome.
Mitch, and I've been waiting. Sean, good
Great. Thank you so much,
morning.
both of you, for having me. I'm really grateful to be on the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being with us. You and I, just before the show started in the green room, we were talking about, the challenges of your industry and, making movies and documentary films. It's not easy. And, I'd love for you to share with our audience, just so they have a chance to get to know you, what's your story? How did you even get involved in advocating for social justice and doing exactly what Dr. Roshnak is talking about, giving that voice, to the voiceless and shining a light on what the world really needs to see through the stories you tell. Tell us about that journey for you.
Yeah. So, basically I came up in theater and then moved into film and TV commercials, music videos. And I really got to hone my skills in storytelling through that. The more you get to tell stories, the better you get at them. But there was always a feeling, achieving really good work, but not having a soul behind it. So I've always been pulled toward, stories that, shine a light, as you said, into the darkness, and, revealing injustice and wherever it may be. So, it isn't hard. It isn't easy to make documentaries, especially ones that do expose injustice. It's becoming harder and harder as the industry kind of gets consolidated, like many other industries are. That's happening to now. There's less and less room for individual voices that speak the truth to power, and it becomes harder and harder to raise money to make these things. They're not cheap to make. Just the archival in our film was like $150,000, all said and done, and that's without even editing it. So you have to raise a lot of money to do these things, and in the structure that's set up now, it's hard to recoup that money. So you really have to do it out of love for the story and the importance of the story.
I just realized I was on mute. My apologies. Dr. Roshnak has just lost her connection. She'll be popping right back in a minute. But, I heard something in what you said in your answer. And I think this is so important for our audience, because this is really who our audience is as well. And you said, there was no soul in my work. And, you and I were talking about being in commercial land and, obviously making videos. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of soul in making music videos. But as you said, when you've heard the song so many times, you don't actually hear it anymore. So let's talk about that connection, the soul connection to the work that you're doing, because I think that's where a lot of people these days, and especially since COVID and how things have changed, they've lost the soul that goes into their work, or they just don't even know where to go. What's the path that led you to that, finding that meaning and that soul work in this for you? Because that's what really gives, I think, a lot of us purpose and meaning in our own lives, and where so many are feeling lost these days. So tell us about that soul work for you. Dig into that one a little bit with me.
Yeah. So, I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people in my life, maybe hundreds in a year. And the more you get to talk to them on a personal level, on a deep level, the more you realize that we're so much more similar than we are different, and no matter where you go. So when we started filming Americon, it was right before the pandemic, about 7-8 months before the pandemic, and then we traveled to 23 states. We drove 32,000 miles before and then during the pandemic, and met a cross section of the country. And we, and when we started the film, we knew that income inequality was a really major issue, but we didn't really know how deeply affected so many people are. economics is, the engine for you to do anything. Whether it is to take care of your children or be able to afford to drive to work. And there's a lot of emotional stories in a lot of places in this country where we went where there is no running water and there is no electricity in vast areas, all the way to, upper middle class people that got laid off during the pandemic and burned through their savings and were not able to, survive and were evicted. And, the pandemic, I think, was the great revealer for so many people. People got to stop and say, wait, what am I doing on this treadmill where I work harder and harder every week and I'm not making it, right? And so many people in this country aren't making it, or even if they're making it, it's not stable like it used to be. 45% of all adults 18 to 65 in the United States make a median wage of $10.35 an hour.
Yeah.
How is that sustainable? And the emotional stress that causes is really is devastating. And so, we went into all these people's lives and we met so many of them. And, we realized that this is unsustainable and we all have to do something about it. And then focus on the people that are doing something about it and how amazing that is when you start to think that you're not disconnected from everyone, that you are connected, and that together we can make great change. And that was like what opened my eyes the most of the journey of making the film.
I love that you said that about not only the people that felt so disconnected, but the people that are out there doing the work, making everyone feel connected again. And that's so much of what Humanity's Team is about, as well as helping everyone understand we are part of something bigger than ourselves, and that there is a connection. We don't have to feel that disconnection, even in our hardest times in our life. And obviously the stories that you heard and the people that you met, it's hard to feel connected when you're feeling alone and you're feeling lost and you're feeling like you're forgotten. And I think that obviously during COVID, it was almost one way or another. You went one way or another, and either you got more connected or you felt completely and totally alone in that. Can you give us one, I'd love to hear just one short story from you about one of these people that you met that were that connection, were that light, that were doing the hard work. Can you share one story with us, something that you learned from these people or that journey themselves that really you went, wow, this was remarkable, or this person was remarkable?
Sure. So we followed Chris Smalls from the very beginning, kind of before he became who he is now. He during the very early days of the pandemic, he was supervisor in Amazon fulfillment center in Staten Island, and they didn't give them gloves, they didn't give them masks, and they were getting sick, they were throwing up, they were passing out, and they would just move them out of the way. They would just put them on a bus. They wouldn't even call an ambulance. They put them on a bus so that there was no incident report in the place. And, they just kept getting more and more sick. And then they just put another person at that station, right? Total disregard for human life. And he stood up and he did a walkout. And he got fired for that walkout. And then we follow is one of the people that we follow on the journey who goes up against Amazon. And they spent $25 million, had him arrested while he formed, a union and was able to achieve the largest, him and 7 other people were able to achieve the largest unionization in America in 75 years. 7 people went up against the richest man in the world with nothing and were able to overcome. And that really sparked the whole thing. And we saw it with Starbucks. We've seen it with nurses. Now doctors are unionizing. I mean, we're seeing it, across the nation, the UAW, and everyone's realized that they can't live on $10.35 an hour. And people are worth more than that. And we're in the richest country in the world. So to see that, and then to see like Jenny, we follow, who's one of the most compassionate people in the world, who goes out and feeds and clothes the homeless in Newark, New Jersey every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, completely selfless, gets donations and puts it out there. And it's just amazing what people do and what care there is out there, and how we can very easily stand up and do what's right and help others.
Yeah, I love that you said that, and
So,
how we get to touch each other. Dr. Roshnak, over to you.
yes, thank you. So I love what you're talking about here, Jim. It brings up so much from the perspective of how we feel about ourselves and how we respond to what's happening in our world. So I love that this story Americond is following Christian Smalls and his drive to get support. And so one of the things I'd like to start bringing up a little bit of background and start talking about how we got here, and how, for something like 40 years, everything was okay insofar as in the US, there was government balanced with unions, which is what Mr. Smalls was looking to do, was to get support. And support comes in the form of community, in the coming together as a group. And so when corporations first kind of formed, there was a complete imbalance and were being abused. And it's something kind of similar to what's been happening today, where there's a huge disparity between the haves, which are this very small percentage of people, and everybody else. And so once that happened, there was this, it was about 40 years of prosperity. And around 1975, there was a divergence between workers' compensation and productivity. So economic growth kept happening, productivity continued, but there was a divergence in wealth. And stories, and this is what we were talking about in the beginning, stories came through that started really taking people to that dark place, I think. So once upon a time, single mothers were the ones who were getting assistance from the government. And people thought they were very deserving. People had a lot of compassion for them because the breadwinner, because the woman couldn't go out and work, the breadwinner of the family was absent. It's logical and it makes sense that that woman needs support, and raising children is so important. And we bring viable humans into society. These are the people that we have to live with and work with, and so on and so forth. And then something happened where all of a sudden we have this socially constructed concept of the deserving and the not deserving. And single mothers who were deserving, after Social Security was enacted some 20 years later, and people were single because they were, let's say, divorced instead of widowed, suddenly now they are undeserving. Now there is a stigma. Now we start to make people feel bad. And I'm a neuroscientist, I'm a behavioral neuroscientist. And I can tell you that we are so not doing our best. We don't make our best decisions. We don't even make good decisions when we feel bad. How many people in the world who are listening here have procrastinated? Probably every single person listening. Why do you procrastinate? Because you become emotionally hijacked. You can make the right decision, but you don't enact that decision. You take another one, the one that is you procrastinating, because you're not managing your emotions. And so when you have society making you feel less than, then you're not going to be able to do well. You're not going to be bringing joy into the world, light into the world, productivity into the world on any level. And by the way, as a single mother, you're affecting however many children you have. So I think it's really important to start understanding how the breakdown in very hidden ways sets us up. Because the reason, one of the main reasons from a hidden algorithm perspective of the problems that we have and why they're getting more and more exacerbated
Dr. Roshanek, you're just
is
cutting in
because
and
we
out a
have
little
built,
bit. Dr. Roshanek,
at least in the
Dr. Roshanek,
US, a
see if she can hear me.
society on judgment, blame, and shame. And the judgment, blame, and shame is there to control behavior. This is how we're controlling narratives.
Dr. Roshanek,
Yeah.
there we go. I just wanted to see if there was a,
Mm-hmm.
there we go. I think we've lost her in there for a minute. So Sean,
Yeah,
let's go around to this and let's have a conversation and
sure. I mean, I could see that happening to people, right?
Yeah.
As as stress went up, the eviction notice hit, there was no work, industries were shut down, people were not focused on all the things that were possible to do. The stress, and in fact, interviews with experts, the stress lowers IQ, right? It lowers IQ. It makes you not make good decisions, and then it's
I'm
a
back.
spiral, right? And where it's a spiral that happens, and then and we see what happens, right? You have drugs, alcohol are escape mechanisms, depression, anxiety, and suicide, right? And now last year was the highest rate of suicide we've had in this country since they've been taking records. So this economic injustice is causing devastation, and it is so expensive that basically whenever every dollar spent for early childhood intervention has a $11 to $12 return on investment. So it is insane that we are not allowing our people to make enough money to survive when there's plenty of money there. There's been a $50 trillion redistribution of wealth from basically the middle and working classes to the 1% in the last 45 years. And that's why, we many of us, 90% of the country doesn't feel like they're making it, right? The younger generation can't afford houses. People working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and they're still at the end of the week not making it. And, watching one of our people, Christina, who had 3 kids, contemplating suicide because of economic situations, we realize that this is unsustainable, and we have to do something about it.
Thank you, Sean, for that. And, I completely agree. What we know about, listen, our world, and not just in the United States right now, is that our world's greatest pandemic right now is mental health, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen that through society on so many levels. And we're going to talk, I want to ask you a few more questions about this as well, is we've seen this on multiple levels. And obviously one of the key points that you've made is, people they don't have enough to survive, put food on the table, like the basic necessities that we need in our world. I live in Canada, so it's not that we don't have challenges here as well, but it always surprises me when we hear of people that aren't even making enough money to put food on their table in the United States of America, which is just amazes me to no avail, and how that's even possible with the wealth that's in that country. But we're seeing this across, scales globally. And let's talk a little bit more about, one of the changes, obviously, we've seen in one of the stories that you were telling about the gentleman that came into Amazon, and he changed everything as well. Now, that was a lot of money that Jeff Bezos put into stopping people coming together. Why do you think that part happened? What did you get from that? Why was he trying to keep everybody separated and not together and not unionized? Because I think this is such a big part of the story that we're seeing at a propaganda scale. We're seeing this at a news scale. We see this on our social feeds. Let's start with Jeff Bezos and just why do you think he took that angle and tried to keep everybody apart?
Well, because he doesn't want to pay them. Really, he doesn't consider them human beings. Is really what it comes down to, and he cannot wait till he can replace all of them with robots, and he is doing it very rapidly. Now, the problem is, right, so with capitalist society, when no one has any jobs, who's going to buy the stuff, right? So it is unsustainable. Now, you have someone who, fluctuates between the last few years being the richest person in the world and the third or fourth richest person in the world. He easily could pay everyone $30, $35 an hour. And he could single-handedly rebuild the middle class and still be probably in the top 10 richest people in the world. And then also those people would be able to buy from him, right? Henry Ford as a person probably wasn't the best person in the world, but he always said that I'm going to pay my people enough so they can buy my cars. Right? So this insane thinking, this hoarding of wealth by a very few amount of people doesn't end well, right? We interviewed a billionaire, Nick Hanauer, who said basically it ends in three different ways. It's a authoritarian government, a police state, or revolution. Those are all terrible outcomes. We had the best middle class in the world. It was the American dream, right? We had that from like 1945 to 1975, and we could do that again. We did it. We can do it again. And it wasn't as inclusive as it should have been. Women were not part of this for the most part, and minorities were not part of it. But if we all are doing better, we're all going to do better. So it on one hand, it doesn't make any sense. And then on the other hand, it's sort of like this hoarder mentality where I don't need more, I need it all. Take care of your people. If you make it to 5 years in an Amazon warehouse, they pay you $5,000 never to work there again. Why do they do that? Because your body's broken. They don't want to pay disability. They call them pickers, like cotton pickers. It's terrible. It's a terrible culture there. It's poisonous. And that's what happens when people aren't treated like humans.
Dr. Roshanek, have we got you back with us? Okay, we don't hear her quite yet, but I'm going to keep moving towards this one. I want to talk about this whole, this is like the David and Goliath moment, where we really see, the powerful in our world. And, I don't want to just pin this on Jeff Bezos by any means, because it's not just him.
No.
This is the story across the world, right? We see this on every level. And I want to make sure, we have a global audience here at Humanities Team and helping people understand this on all levels as well. One of the things, that I want to really drive home from the message is this, the Davids in all of us, the hero, all of us, and our hero story and our hero's journey. And I hear this in the work that you're doing, and I hear this in the stories that you're sharing with us as well, is the smaller people in our world who actually are. I mean, you said 7 people took this all on. Like that's a remarkable feat that inspires me and brings hope at a different scale, that people do have that ability. I run a small not for profit. I know this feeling of it can't just be me going out and creating that change in the world, but when each and every one of us go out and do something small every day, all of a sudden we start to see a bigger change, and we start to see the scale change, and we start to see, it's even like the woman that you said, every day of the year she goes out and, provides food and clothing for the homeless. So it's, I'm sure she has a team of people around her as well, even if it's the donations that are coming in that help to provide that support as well. I want to shift a little bit, or sorry, did you want to add something to that, Sean?
Well, I just, I think it's infectious, right? If you're passionate about something and you're doing good and you're, people want to help, people want to be a part of it. And you have to, you have to reach out and ask for help. And then once people start, feeling the, connection, contribution, community, collaboration, that's what we all need, right?
Right.
And, we've been divided, through technology, through just the way our lives are set up. We don't go to the civic center or the church or the pub or wherever it may have been in that type of culture.
I think they still do the pub thing in Ireland all the time, right?
Yes.
Where they
Yeah.
they still gather by families.
Totally. So that connection, that community is so important. It's what we need as human beings.
Well, here's my next question then for you. And I think you're going to be a great person to help create this awareness and understanding for everybody as well. Can you tell us about some of these factors? And you just started getting into it a little bit right now, the factors that are really contributing to the societal division. And weaponizing information, the manipulation of social status, and how fear plays into all of those. Now, this is a big question, but let's break it down a little bit in regards to, let's look at these big components right now. What are you seeing through your lens? And this is what I love about the work that you do, Sean, is that we're seeing, you see it through literally a camera lens where you're able to kind of zoom out a little bit. We'll use all the terminology, but it's really the truth of awareness as well. As there, you're able to stand back. There's one of my favorite books by Gary Zukav, and he says, "Sit back in the seat of your soul." And I feel like you're able to do that through the lens in which you're viewing through the camera, that you're not actually in it, but you're viewing it from a different perspective, an unbiased perspective, and being able to capture everybody's stories from a different lens. And I think if we all had that ability, or were given that chance to see things that way, that's where change happens. So let's start looking at, what are these key factors that you see from your lens that really are the big factors that are programming our brains, that are influencing us, that are, creating these not healthy communities, and then that separation as well. Tell us what you've seen through your lens.
Yeah. So basically, when people are separated, when they feel a loss of social status, whether real or perceived, they are very vulnerable to propaganda or propaganda. I think it's always there. The internet certainly makes it easier to deliver that. So when a group or feels like they're falling out of social status, then it's very easy to introduce the other, right? And we saw this. We can look in history. This has happened over and over again. But we can look at Europe in the late 20s and early 30s, how the other was blamed for all the social or economic ills. Once we do that, we vilify a group of people. Now, it could be refugees, it could be immigrants, it could be Jewish people, it could be African Americans or Africans in Europe. It could be the other ethnic group.
Well, we've seen this in
One of,
Indigenous people, haven't we? You know, that's
oh
our real
yes,
problem here in Canada is our Indigenous people have been vilified now. You know, they're the drunks, they're the rats of society, right?
yeah,
When really this was their land and we took it all away from them. I mean, that's such a great example. And we see this again and again. And the great example of Europe and African descent people as well, where they've just been stripped of everything that was important for them, the things they were connected to. Dr. Roshanak and I just did a series
Yep.
on Indigenous peoples and those beautiful lessons that we got to learn. And that was taken away. You know, you were talking about earlier, the soul work. We literally stripped them of their souls, haven't we? And that's
yeah. I
where I
mean,
see this tying in.
yeah. I
That's
mean, you
exactly
take.
what, sorry, that was exactly
Yeah,
what happened with our Indigenous people that we learned also from speaking with Kevin Martin. Their soul, their spirituality, when an outsider comes in, when there is an absence of wanting to have empathy or communication, a real connection, our humanity, then an outsider who doesn't understand, and in this case wouldn't be interested in understanding, but rather imposing. And this is what happens with othering. We're not interested in understanding, we're interested in imposing. And so you strip them, as Jacqueline, you were just saying, of that soul connection to the truth. In the case of the Indigenous, they had a deep spiritual connection to the land, and it was all sort of cartoonified, you know, all the things that they did, because the essence of that truth was removed and there was no interest in connecting to that. So the idea of where our humanity and our spirituality and our practical capabilities intersect, I think we don't give enough credit to. And this is what you show a lot of, Sean, that it is in this intersection that we find our problems and from whence we can move out to remove the problems. How does that resonate for you?
yeah, no, totally. And where that becomes incredibly dangerous is when the other is dehumanized and the other is
Exactly.
shown, yeah, as vermin or as subhuman. Then that's how you get genocide. But what we've been seeing around the globe with democracy specifically, the there has been this propaganda the propaganda that the other is the source of all of your problems, right? So they're the ones that destroyed the economy, right? It's the refugees. Oh, come on, the refugees destroyed the economy? No, they didn't. It's the other that destroyed the economy. That's why you can't afford a house. That's why you can't, do this. So that's why the crime rate is so high. So what we're going to ask you to do, right, to protect your children, is to suspend democracy until we take care of the other or these problems, or you see this with the pedophiles have come into the other political group, or and they're going after your children, and they're with the other, and so we're gonna ask you to suspend the democracy, right? So you saw that in Hungary. It almost happened in Poland, right? It's the excuse is used to go into Ukraine. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in South America. We're seeing this regurgitation of what happened in the 30s is happening now. And we really need to, realize that, people are very similar no matter where they are. And the other, right, is probably suffering greatly. And they are not the cause of your problems. And that if we can come together, We can demand, especially in the democracies, like we should be able to demand change. But that gets the campaign finance reform and all that stuff. But there's an incredible amount that we can do, and we have to do it now, right? We have to join organizations, start organizations. They can be simple as helping other people, getting to know other people, running for office, whether it be the local school board or, all the way up. Democracy is not something that someone else does. It is something that we all have to do, and it is fragile and it needs to be protected. And we're kind of at this, this tipping point where, the next generation can't afford homes. They have no savings. They're, killed with student debt. We need to make very big changes, and we have to do it right away. And we have to survive the next, few years. And the cop out is, I hear it all the time. The cop out is the young generation is really standing up, so they're going to take care of it. I mean, it's our
every
watch.
generation pushing it off on the next generation, right?
It's on our watch, right? We have to be the bringers of change, and whatever that is for you. I'm not pushing any ideology here. We're in a very tough situation, and we all have to stand up, and we all have to do the best we can to save the democracy, and then bring people that are economically suppressed out of that, and then that will be better for everyone. It will be better for the society as a whole. It will be better, giving people opportunities and educating them should be the most important thing that we do, because if they're elevated, everything's elevated, and if they're suppressed, and everything, it's all connected, right?
Jacqueline, does that sound familiar? Sean, I'm always talking about that. It's either win-win or lose-lose, and people don't get that. They think it's a win-lose situation, but it's not, right?
No, it's not. It's not.
It's absolutely not.
No. And, it's laughable that there isn't enough money to pay people who work hard and play by the rules so that they can have a decent life in the richest country in the world. It's laughable. We don't.
I love what you're saying because. Sorry, I love what you're saying about this because. I'm sorry, I have a delay. I'm so sorry, Sean. Please finish.
Yeah, no worries. I think no matter what your political thoughts or any of your identity, I think everyone should believe that anyone who works hard in this country, and really in any of the wealthy countries, that they should have a path to the middle class. And we make that path stronger. And it used to be as strong as it is in the world. And the middle class was the dream of the world. The American middle class was the dream of the world. And we need to restore that.
This path to prosperity, I'll call it, really hinges on us collaborating, doesn't it? We come together.
Yep.
And in coming together, we find strength. We are able to feel comfortable enough, because it goes back to what I was saying before my signal dropped out. I apologize, about the judgment, blame, and shame, right? You don't shrink back, and people don't just disappear. They can't just disappear. We have this idea that it's, out of sight, out of mind. That's them, and we attribute them these qualities that make them less than. So they deserve whatever bad or ill or misfortune, this absence of prosperity, as if that is a representation of your value as a human being. And we know very, very well that wealth is not associated with how good a human being you are, with your gifts, your blessings, etc. Absolutely not. And in fact, the most recent report shows that the vast majority of wealth in the future billionaires and millionaires is going to come from inheritance. So you didn't do anything to get that. I'm not saying you should be giving your kids whatever you have. All I'm saying is that the stories that we're telling, the stories that we are telling, are not stories of our truth, which is that we are loved, which is that we are worthy, which is that we are capable, which is that we have the initiative, the desire, the passion to be productive members while we are alive of society, supporting our neighbors, being connected to each other, taking care of each other's kids, if there's a problem or whatever, helping each other. We know that as soon as, and Jacqueline runs the nonprofit organization 365 Give, the first person who benefits from giving is the giver. So if we subscribe, if we internalize the narratives, and this comes back to what you were saying about propaganda, so that people are very clear about propaganda, it's something that gets pushed out politically to serve a purpose. It is intentional, and it is intentionally misdirecting and misinforming to get a particular behavioral result. And we as human beings, we have these bodies and our brains, the way they work, and our hearts, so we can be susceptible, and we think that we're not. We don't realize we're in a battle against a very few people. So it's like, we can talk about, where's our humanity? Where's our humanity? The majority of people are showing their humanity. It's just, where is it getting drowned out systemically, intentionally, through the structures that are set up? But Sean, you talk about this and you bring this forth because you say, and I felt it in you when you shared that with me and with Jacqueline, that of course there's hope. Of course there's a way out. And in the 30s, as you said, while we are revisiting, reenacting the 30s, they pulled out of it. How? Through social structures that brought us together and gave us strength. So I'm coming to you, Sean, to bring that to us now, today. How can we safeguard ourselves from the propaganda that would have us be divided, have us embrace separation, have us feel disempowered, because that's the point of it? What do you say to everyone who says, well, what can I do? And this is a big system that's meant to make me fail. And sure enough, I am. So I'm just going to sit here and do that. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that there is always hope. I think that together we can do incredible things. If 7 people could go up against the richest man in the world and unionize when they spent $25 million to crush them, had them arrested, changed, they would change the bus routes so that the people couldn't go near where they were trying to organize. Hire, security that would harass them, and still win. We can completely take this on. We have to realize, that there are very well-funded think tanks with some of the smartest people in the country that work at them, who spend their time figuring out how to propagandize us. And there is
we can do that just right through our phone, can't we, Sean?
Yes.
It's this beautiful tool that we all carry around with us that helps with that.
100%. And we need to talk to our neighbors. We need to talk to people we don't know, people that are not like us, realize our similarities, believe that everyone that works hard should have a path to the middle class, and we have to join organizations that help other people. And as you said before, you don't get happiness from getting, right? Collecting things will not make you happy. Maybe for a very short period of time, but giving is the way. Community connection, contribution, and together we can stand up to them. They are few, we are many, right? And stop watching the news. There are fewer and fewer of investigative journalists, but they're still there. I mean, I just pay attention to them. But algorithms or networks that want to keep you scared.
Fear versus love, right?
Yeah. Why we have so many homeless people in this country, right? It's because of this party. It's because of that party. No, it's because every $100 you raise the median rent, homelessness goes up 10%, right?
Wow.
And if you didn't have mental illness or drug addiction before you became homeless, you certainly will once you are living on the street. And not everyone has big families that people have families where the members have died off and there's no safety net for them, and there's no real safety nets here. So you just see this, there's no mental health care, unless you have insurance. If you don't have a job, you don't have insurance. There's no drug, I think in New York City where I live, the waiting list for drug treatment, if you don't have insurance, is over a year. Are they even going to be able to find you in a year, right? To tell you that you got in a program.
Same with the NHS.
So, yeah. I gave a talk in London about the NHS, the national healthcare over there, and they're destroying that as well over there. But we can do it. We can come together. We can make the changes. Democracy is not a spectator sport. So we have to, get involved. And, if we don't, we're in big trouble. And if we do, we can save it all for the next generation. And it is on our watch. It's not the 20-year-olds that are supposed to save us. We're supposed to save us. Yes, we should work with them, but we're
supposed to save us.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I have great hope, but the time is short.
It is. And, our time here today is short too. And we want to make sure, one of our final questions that we always like to ask, and, I think you've answered this in so many levels. It's actually, for me, it's been your thread all the way through our conversation today, which I absolutely love. And we always ask at the end of our show, as we say, what's the get off the couch? What do we say to people? What would you say to people to get them off the couch and go take action in our world? We've been given this beautiful tool. We like to call our, Dr. Rochenette calls it our mortal coil, but our physical bodies that we can get off the couch and do something. What's the thing you would say today, Sean, to get people off the couch?
Yeah. So, I would say watch the movie because it's very inspiring. What Jenny does with Project Kind in the film is amazing. You could look Jenny up, Project Kind. She's on Instagram and all sorts of stuff. And what she does to help people with just pure love.
I love that.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. Go into the worst neighborhoods and deal with the people that are forgotten. And they love her and she loves them. And she'll do anything for them and they'll do anything for her. And, to see them, treat them like human beings and then awaken in front of you. It's really amazing. But also, there's that, there's, run for office, start an organization, join an organization that means something to you. Help, help children. Help children. There's so many children out there that need a tutor, a mentor, whatever. Do something. We watch too much TV. We're on these phones too much. Take an hour a week. Start small. You'll get addicted.
I love that. And I know that one. I did this project 365 Give with my son when he was 3. And we did one thing to give back to the world every day for 365 days. And I promise everybody, and Sean, I love that this is the thread that you've run through our whole conversation today. It is addictive because you feel so good. Your life all of a sudden has meaning and purpose. And I think that's the soul. And I want to go right back to one of the first things you said in our conversation today. You felt in some of your work in the past was you were disconnected from that soul work. And now we can hear it in you. We see it in you. We see it through the stories and the lens that you're sharing with the world, that you're so connected to that. And everything you've shared with us today, that's all of our opportunity to connect back to our true nature and our true self and to do our own soul work. It doesn't mean it's the job you have to do, but it can be how you show up in the world every day. And you've inspired me. I can't wait for everyone to go and see this film so that
Americon, I loved it.
Well,
it was so good. It was so
absolutely
good.
Amazing. And Sean, Dr. Roshanak,
It's
I
so
got to turn it over
informative.
to you. Yeah, but Sean, thank you for your education with us today, because I think that us understanding, you being the teacher for us today and creating that understanding for us, and then the inspiration. And now it's our job to feel empowered and to go out and create that change right where we are. Because when we all start doing it right where we are, that's the ripple effect you were talking about. It affects everybody around you, in your family, the people you talk to, the people you work with. And then that's the ripple, and that's the community we get to face. Somebody said in the comments, I love this comment, that I was going to see if I can find it. Where did you go? It was a beautiful comment that somebody made in the chat here, that, we're a shared humanity. Humanity is all out there for each and every one of us. When we all show up individually as that, then we find our community, then we find the people we can surround ourselves with and go out there and do the hard work together. And then it doesn't feel so hard anymore. Dr. Roshanak, over to you to close it off today.
Okay, thank you so much, Jacqueline. First of all, let me thank all of you who have been here live and who are listening to the recording for coming in and taking an opportunity to educate yourself, enlighten yourself, and engage in life actively, because that's what this is all about. We were not meant to check out of our bodies and go on autopilot, because then, like a piece of driftwood, you get thrown wherever the waves will take you, right? We are meant to be present and to be conscious and to move forward consciously. And so if you're here and that's your intention, then please join me in thanking so much Sean Claffey for giving us the tools that we needed to be able to move forward in that good, beautiful direction consciously. Sean, you are so heart-centered. You've got other movies coming out. You're working on other projects, I know. Is there anything that you want to share with us quickly also before we close up about some of the other projects that you have? Because they're in line. I think all the work that you do is the light in the dark work, is the voice of the voiceless, is the, that we as a humanity are truly amazing. It's not that humanity doesn't care. It's that we just need each other to support each other. And we need the tools and strategies that will go along with our intention to create better. So somebody said, oh, society's corrupt. Thank you for revealing that. No, society is not corrupt. It's we set up a system that is not working for us. So Sean, what are some of the other, if you want to share with us, maybe very quickly, one or two projects that you're working on that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so we're doing a documentary on the struggle for democracy, more a global lens, Europe and Africa, South America, and then kind of tie it back into North America. We started shooting that. We partnered up with Transparency International, that kind of exposes corruption globally. And then we're doing one on women, life, freedom, about the Iranian women's revolution.
Zanzen Yazadi.
Yes, and yeah, we've shot a bunch of that already, and heading to London and Germany in January.
Beautiful. And one thing I'd like to point out is the reason that we talk about democracy so much. I think what we could do is replace the word democracy with community, with humanity, because it's the opportunity for us to come together and be present with equity, right? That
No,
is us
100%.
being one. Yeah.
Yes, as opposed to us being ruled.
That's right. So when we are all present, which is what we all want to do, and we are all here acknowledging our interdependence and creating something beautiful together. Did I lose you? Sorry.
No, you're still there. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you,
So
thank you both
so
for having me.
Thank you for
Oh,
joining
really?
us. And hey, everybody, we are going to move into part 2 of our social justice series next week with our guest, Jo Berry, who is going to talk about her journey with interacting with a terrorist who killed her father in an effort to bring down Margaret Thatcher and her group at the time when the UK and Ireland were really going at it some decades ago. And that journey, how it speaks to each of us and what's within us, and how not othering actually does allow us to reclaim our humanity and create something better. So please join us next week for that. Sean, thank you again so much. And there will be links in the YouTube and the other ones where you can find Sean, Americond, and some of the other work that's going on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Oh, and it's up on the screen. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. God bless you, everybody.
See you next
Get
week.
off the couch. Bye.
Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.